We should be live. We're going to talk today about women to be leaders. Now, this might sound familiar for you. I'm just making sure I've got enough room bandwidth here. But if you have found yourself ever being told that you're too emotional to lead, or that you are allowing your emotions to cloud your judgment, then this video is for you today, because we're going to crack that myth wide open today. So again, as always, make sure if you've got any questions, drop them in the comments. And I am Kim. I'm a women's executive leadership coach, strategist, and advisor. So if you've got any questions, you can ask them in the comments or reach out to me in the DMs. I have always got a great space and a very safe space there for any and all of your questions. So let's dive into this today, because this is one that I struggled with in the past, thinking like, ooh, maybe what everyone is telling me is right. I'm too emotional to lead because I can be very business oriented, but at times, the emotions were a little bit closer to the surface. And let me guess, how many times have you experienced this? And I know I did, where when I got passionate about a subject and would, add more volume to my voice, so not yelling, but just add more volume, speak louder, that all of a sudden you get pushed back like, ooh, like, that's like great, but you don't need to do that much. Like there was too much emotion. Whereas with men, my experience is that oftentimes they'd be like, oh, they're really passionate about this and they're really engaged in this topic. So where if I was showing the same behaviors and doing the same actions as my male colleagues, I was actually being pushed down, saying, oh, that's not appropriate. Like, that's not what leaders do. Whereas my male colleagues would be celebrated for the exact same actions and the exact same behaviors. So let's dig into this, because this is a concept that continuously lives on through all of society. How many times I have been asked that, but women aren't really that courageous or that brave. So, and they're not willing to take risks. So they shouldn't be leaders. So there's a lot of these preconceptions that are living in our spaces, in our society, in our corporate world, and in their corporate cultures that we are not necessarily aware of. And one of these today is what we're going to talk about is, are women too emotional to be leaders? Now, this belief is really important to tackle, because here's the thing. Women and men, they're both emotional. We all make decisions based off of emotion, and generally that's the majority of our decisions are made based off of emotion. Now, I know there's going to be those out there that are going to argue with me of like, that's not the case. But here's the thing. Your decisions are based off of your past experience. There's some decisions that there's a portion that might look to the rational, logical information that's been provided to you. But what do you do with that information? That information, you need to vet whether or not you trust the person that's sharing it, whether you believe that analysis, that data was done correctly and was conclusively, and that you can trust to make a decision based off of that. Your experience, your past experiences, and the knowledge that you've gained over the years also has to do with whether or not you can make a decision. All of that is emotional intelligence that you hold. So when we say to women that they're too emotional to lead, what you're really saying is you're not used to their type of emotion, because there is the male equivalent of emotion is gut instinct. So when men say, hey, you know what, if my gut tells me that this is the right decision to make, it's like almost across the board, that's an accepted way of coming to a decision. It's not emotional. It's just like, hey, that's his gut. Whereas women, we often call it more intuition, or I feel like this would be the right way to go. So if you're finding yourself in that situation where you're being either told you're too emotional or you're worried about being too emotional, start using the same language that is accepted, which is your gut instinct. Hey, my gut tells me this. Because at the end of the day, gut instinct or intuition are the same things. They're all based on emotions. So if you're getting the pushback that women are being too emotional to lead, or if you're watching this and you're a leader and you're like, well, I don't really want to promote that woman versus the man because they might be too emotional. Consider the fact that each one of us is emotional. It's just that we have said it's okay when you're making decisions based off gut instinct. That is a good that is an accepted form of emotional intelligence that we use in the workspace. And when we say intuition, that we need to say that's too emotional. Or we talk about, well, I feel like that's the right decision. Then again, it's a pushback on that. So here's what you need to be aware of. They're both the same. We all make decisions emotionally as leaders. So what happens when you start to use the terminology of gut instinct, or even better yet, let's just cancel out the entire belief of that women are too emotional to be leaders, because that's not the case. Then we create a space which is opening up to a lot more creativity and possibility. Because right now, what we've essentially stated as a society is that almost 50% of the world's wisdom is not as valuable or as accurate because they're making decisions based off of emotion, while as the other 50%, yeah, we accept that. That's great. We trust, again, an emotional decision. We trust that gut instinct. So I hope, so I'm going to round it off here, that I've shared the reasons why this is such an important thing to consider. And if you don't think this is an issue, here's an example from one of my clients. So I had this conversation and I said this exact same thing almost 6 months ago in a panel discussion where I talked about how the fact that we as women aren't more emotional than men when it comes to decision making. As women, we're not more emotional or too emotional to lead, but we need to start making the equivalent of that. Our intuition is the same as gut instinct. So if men can make decisions on gut instinct, fantastic. Bring that emotion in. Gut instinct is an emotion. It is an accepted, society has accepted that as a proper emotion in the business world. So let's take that proper emotion and really give it its space across the breadth of everyone that is working with us. So find those for yourself when you have that opportunity. And if someone is telling you you're too emotional, or you find yourself about to say, well, I feel like this is the right decision, just switch up your language a little bit and just say, hey, my gut tells me this, or this is the right decision. Just even keep all of that sense all that emotion out of it, but realize again that gut instinct is just as emotional as intuition or as feeling. It's just a word or a set of words, I should say, that has been very accepted in terms of being valuable and being an accepted way of making a decision. So when you come up to that question, are you too emotional to be a leader, or are women too emotional to be a leader? I would say hell no, because let's be honest, everyone makes their decisions based off of emotions. It is just how do we phrase it, or how do we perceive it, that makes the difference. So if you're making decisions off of your gut instinct or off of your experience, or off of if you trust the person that is giving you that information, that is all feelings, that is all emotions. So Hey, I'm proud to be a woman. I'm proud to be an emotional leader because I'm doing just as similar as what men are doing when they're leading, is that they're using all of their experience, all of their knowledge, as well as whether or not they can trust the information, the person, etc., to come to decisions and conclusions. So if that makes me emotional, I will proudly wear that badge. And I will also attach that badge to every male leader that I come across who says that they are using gut instinct to make decisions because they're one and the same. So let's call a spade a spade. Let's put it that way. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, if you've got questions, please DM me. Let me know either in the comments or in the DMs what your questions are. And I also just wanted to take this opportunity to share with you that I am doing a workshop this week all about how you can take credit for your ideas without being seen as a bitch. Now, if you want to get into that, follow the link in the comments below or in the description here and get into that today, because that the workshop will be on Thursday, and you're going to get my proven 7-day influence framework that has helped over 60 plus women leaders claim their ideas and accelerate their careers over the last 2.5 years. So if nothing else, that is worth all of the time to get registered and get in, because it is a live workshop, which means you also get some one-on-one FaceTime, or not one-on-one, but you get FaceTime with me to ask your questions, and we can go from there. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate each and every one of you that has been on here, and I look forward to sharing more wisdom again, both in the workshop. So get your spot in there, register for your spot today, as well as I will see you again on Friday. Have a great day.